Hi everyone, Claudia here with Mighty Oak Parenting. Wanted to talk a little bit about this illusion of the perfect parent that we all seem to be chasing or that we all seem to think exists. And now I know everyone can probably think of someone in their lives or another parent that you say, wow, they have it all together, right? Whatever, however you know them, somebody that seems to look like they have it all together, whether it's someone you see at carpool in the morning or a friend of yours. And we seem to have this concept that this person exists. And I am here to tell you that that's not true, that every parent has struggles. Every parent has moments when they don't feel like they have it together. Every parent feels overwhelmed at some point in time. And how we perceive something and what the reality is are very different. So I know that, in my work with families, especially when they come to me when I was working as a therapist, everyone felt very judged by other parents, or a fear of being judged by other parents, especially for coming to therapy. Like, what are people going to say? And then a fear of being judged by me as the therapist. And that's all very real and very human. And we tend to judge one another as parents. And so it leads to feelings of incompetence that I don't think need to be there. So I think one of the things that strikes me as being a challenge for parents today is this concept of social media. And it fuels the judgment. And it's not always negative judgment. Sometimes it is, wow, you have it all together, right? But that person doesn't. And so how are they now managing this, image that was created versus the reality? Do they feel comfortable sharing that they don't have it together? Because now everyone thinks they do, right? Or are we seeing all those smiling, happy family faces on our Facebook feed and all these kids that look like they're doing so great and have it all together, right? And, we've got, challenges at home that we're struggling with. And then we're inundated with these pictures of people who look like they have it all together. But what we don't see is that, this toddler was having a tantrum 5 minutes before that photo was taken, or the couple was having a disagreement and an argument the night before, right? There's so many things that we don't see on Facebook. People tend to focus positive snapshots of themselves and moments in life. Every now and then people will talk about the challenges or the hard times, but everything is edited through this lens of what someone feels comfortable sharing and versus what they don't, right? So as much as social media, I think, can cause us to feel connected to other people, it can just as much cause us to feel disconnected and isolated, right? My family doesn't look like that. My life isn't as happy and great or easy as that person's, right? Or I've created this image of this great life. I can't let anyone know that I'm falling apart. And so instead of having real connections with people, we're doing everything through this filter. And I think it's just really important to address that's what it is. That there is no perfect parent. There is no parent that never has a hard day, that never struggles, that can keep it all together. And while this is the culture we live in right now, we live in a very social media driven world. I kind of want to talk about how we can manage that, and why we should manage it. It's really important to take a look at how all of these messages we're internalizing based on what we see and how that affects us as parenting. Does it cause us to parent out of fear and anxiety more than we would, or fear of judgment? I want people to perceive me this way, so I'm going to do this, instead of really parenting from a place of, here is my family, here are my children, here's what they need, here's what's in their best interest, right? When we start getting driven by our fear and anxiety in any situation, parenting not being any different, we sometimes don't see things as clearly or make the decisions we would if we weren't driven by these strong emotions. So we live in a social media world. I'm not saying everyone should cancel their accounts, but let's talk a little bit about how to manage that. So again, most importantly, I think it's really important to keep in mind that everything you see on social media is a snapshot of someone's life, and it's a snapshot that they have chosen to share. Okay. So it is not the whole picture. It doesn't show the tantrum that happened before. It doesn't show, that they were sick for 3 weeks before this, right? All these things, like some of it just silly life stuff, but it doesn't show all the dirty details. And so when we start comparing ourselves to half a picture or an edited picture, right, we're not going to get a very accurate comparison. And not that I feel we should compare ourselves to anybody, but we tend to do that as humans. but definitely just realize that you're only getting a snapshot and that you can't compare all the information you have on your life to that, small fragments of information you get on somebody else's life. If you still struggle with that, reduce your social media use. Try getting off of social media for a week and just take notice of do you feel different? Do you feel less stressed? Do you feel more happy? What happens? Maybe it's not getting off of social media completely, but maybe it's unfollowing a few people or things that trigger you and that cause you to struggle a little bit more. Just really, experiment with it and see what maybe you can tweak in terms of your media usage that might help you. Okay, really important here is to connect with other people. And by this, I mean in real life, not online. There are some great networks online of moms where you can type questions and get answers and feel supported. And I don't want to downplay that exists, because there are some fantastic groups online. But that's not the same as that face-to-face connection that we can have with a real person, right? Whether it's we're talking on the phone with them, I think that counts. Or grabbing a cup of coffee, but we really start to get more of a whole picture when we have that type of communication with someone versus what we get online through that filter, right? When we're grabbing a cup of coffee with someone, maybe everything's great and fantastic, but we're more likely to share our struggles or to really connect on a different level, and that's really important for us as parents, not to feel isolated and to connect with people. And to connect with someone outside of our children, right? To kind of fill up and make sure that we get the support we need. So I really encourage that. I also encourage, you keep it real. If we're honest about our struggles, then somebody else will be honest about theirs. I think once someone else opens up, and I'm not saying, share every horrible detail and every dump all your baggage, but just to be honest about something you're going through, and somebody else will reciprocate that with their own honesty. I know even just me as a parenting coach, I work really hard to relate to people that I also struggle with parenting sometimes, right? That I don't always say the right thing or do the right thing, and I mess up and I have bad days. And if you followed my blog post, you've probably read one about those, because I want everyone to know that while I have all this knowledge and I have all this expertise, that I still sometimes mess up, because I'm human, and that's okay. Now, some people may judge me and say, well, then what kind of parenting coach are you? And that's okay. I might not be the best parenting coach for them, but in general, my answer is, well, it's because I understand my clients, right? I'm in there with my clients. I get where you're coming from. I get the struggle. I get feeling tired. I get feeling overwhelmed, right? With all my training and all my knowledge as a therapist and tools that I have access to, I can still feel that way sometimes, because again, I'm human. And so from my perspective, that just makes me able to relate so much better to my clients and to be a better parenting coach, because I'm also experiencing the challenges that parents go through. And finally, I think if we can just focus on our families and what's in front of us right now, that we're just in a better place. And this kind of gets into the mindfulness thing. If you can stay in the here and now, not worry about what someone else is going to think about what you're doing, or how someone else is going to view you, but to make decisions based on the information you have right in front of you, and within your own intuition and what you feel is best. This does two things. It allows us to not worry about what people are thinking about us, if we can really just hone into this moment, because there's always going to be someone that doesn't agree with what you do, would want you to do things differently, or doesn't agree with your tactics, or doesn't agree with your beliefs, or whatever the case may be. And that's okay. That's what makes being a human interesting. We're all different. We all have different opinions. But it doesn't mean we should be driven completely by somebody else's or the fear of somebody else's judgment. So staying in the moment. And this also allows us to not get caught up in judging other people, because it goes both ways, right? That cycle kind of continues. And so if we can focus on just our stuff and our life, while supporting other people, but not necessarily spending a great deal of energy, throwing judgment their way, then the cycle of feeling judged as a parent kind of starts to decrease in a small way. Bottom line is, we are all doing the best that we can. And that every parent has good days, bad days, moments when they're just amazing rock stars, and moments when they're just not. And that is part of this journey. that we are on. We're all human. We all have bad days. And so the bottom line is, instead of trying to be a perfect parent, let's just try to be a good parent, a parent that wants to learn, a parent who is willing to grow, and a parent who supports other parents and who reaches out for support. Because in the end, that's what we've got. And we're better off supporting one another than judging each other. And the other reality is that you never fully know what someone's whole story is. So when you sit there and you think someone has it all together, just know that somewhere in that image that they're choosing to have people see, there's always going to be more that is there. And that's the case for everybody. So just some things to think about today. I look forward to talking to you guys probably later this week. Have a fantastic day. Bye.